Good morning. Thank you for your patience. We are about to begin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's town hall hosted by Cranwell International Center, Virginia Tech. I'm Jessica Littrell. I'm a senior international student advisor and communications coordinator here at Cranwell, and I will be your moderator today. Joining me as well is the director of Cranwell International Center, David Clubb. Please note that this town hall will be recorded and available on our website tomorrow, I believe. On behalf of Cranwell International Center and the entire university, I would like to thank each of you for taking the time to attend today's town hall. We know many of you are joining us from around the United States and as well as around the world. We know many of you have been anxious as you not only continue to navigate your way through this current COVID-19 pandemic, but also as these changes have come through with immigration policy and regulatory changes. It is our hope that by the end of this town hall, you will feel less anxious and more assured that Virginia Tech is standing with you through all of this. And of course, we also want you to be informed regarding the impact of the various immigration changes we will be discussing today. Now, I would like to invite David to address you all, and he will be providing some opening remarks, and then I will start with the questions.
Thank you, Jessica, and good morning, everyone. It is a beautiful sunny day here in Blacksburg, Virginia, so I hope wherever you are, you're safe and well. Depending upon where you are right now, it's afternoon or evening, and so welcome. As Jessica mentioned, my name is David Clubb, and I serve as the director of Cranwell International Center here at Virginia Tech. We have over 500 faculty, staff, and students from across the university, as well as members of the broader community with us this morning. And so thank you for joining us. I want to, of course, first of all, extend a special welcome to all of our international students who are on the call today. I want you to know that Cranwell International Center and the entire university is more committed than ever to serve you and to support you during these challenging times. We know that the actions by the federal government recently have added to the anxiety for you and your families as you're already grappling with the realities of the pandemic. But you're strong, and we're going to help you get through this. You are over 4,000 international students from over 100 countries. You represent the best and the brightest from around the world, and we want you to know that you're welcome here. This is home. You're an invaluable and indispensable member of the Hokie Nation. So the focus of the town hall this morning is going to be on immigration issues, specifically the July 6th broadcast message from the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System within the Department of Homeland Security. That's a lot of words. We'll probably refer to that today as the modifications or SEVP or DHS. But this message, this broadcast message, set forth modifications to exemptions that were in place for non-immigrant students in F1 status regarding online enrollment for fall 2020. Now, you can find a lot of information about Virginia Tech's fall 2020 plan on the website, the VT Ready website at vt.edu/ready. Lots of information is there. We're not going to focus on everything today. We are going to really focus on immigration issues. So we're going to cover a lot of details. It's going to be quite nuanced. So thank you for your patience. And through it all, we want you to not be overwhelmed, but to know that we're here to help you. So we have a lot of questions to get through. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jessica and let her go ahead and find the first question.
Okay, so our first question, pretty simple. They're asking, I'm an international student, but I am not in F1 visa status. Does this recent change apply to me?
Well, that's a good one and an easy one. So I'm glad you started with an easy one. The short answer is no. These modifications in the July 6th memo apply only to international students in F1 visa status. If you're in another status, this does not apply to you.
Okay, great, thank you. So another question, so do these recent changes impact students who are currently engaged in optional practical training, or OPT as we often call it, or STEM extension OPT?
Again, that's an easy one. The answer is no. There are no changes and no action is required for anyone who is currently engaged in OPT.
Great. Okay. Kind of to follow that one as well. Another question that we were getting a lot of is, does this change impact students who are or are planning to engage during the fall semester in curricular practical training, or CPT as we often call it?
Okay, very good question. Curricular practical training is different than optional practical training. The answer to that question is the modifications may impact that situation, but probably not. In that case, what I would suggest is if you have questions that you contact your international student advisor in Cranwell International Center, and they'll be happy to talk about the specifics.
Great. Next question is, does this recent change impact students who are not physically present in the US and or who will not be physically present during the fall 2020 semester? And kind of a follow-up that was asked is, can I enroll 100% online and take classes while I'm abroad?
So if you are currently outside of the United States, or you will be for fall 2020 semester, you're not considered to be in F1 non-immigrant status while you're outside the borders of the United States. So in that sense, you're not subject to the July 6th modifications. From an immigration standpoint, again, students outside of the United States have always been able to enroll solely online, with few exceptions for countries that are under comprehensive US sanctions. But so that's not changing. Any student who's been outside the United States has had the option to enroll fully online in courses at Virginia Tech or anywhere else. Now, in addition to the immigration piece, though, there is an academic perspective. So students who are planning to take their courses from abroad will need to coordinate with their academic advisor and their academic department to make sure that there are online options available that meet your requirements for courses you need. So there's an immigration piece and an academic piece to that question. One thing that's important that does change, though, with this July 6th memo is that in the spring, if an international student had to leave the United States, and while they were outside of the United States, they enrolled with Virginia Tech online, we were allowed to keep that student's SEVIS record, the Student and Exchange Visitor Information System record. We were allowed to keep that student's SEVIS record active while they were outside of the United States and enrolled in courses at Virginia Tech. With this July 6th memo, we are no longer allowed to do that. If you are outside of the United States, not physically present for fall semester, even if you're taking online courses at Virginia Tech, we will be required to terminate your record in SEVIS. We will terminate the record for authorized early withdrawal, and we will be required by law to do that within 21 days following the last day to drop ad, which is August 28th. So that's the difference. And so the reason that's important is if your record is able to be kept active in SEVIS while you're outside of the United States, you may find it easier to return to the United States, and you may be able to keep certain benefits in place. But we will be happy to answer any questions about specific situations about that, but that's what's going on in terms of if you're outside the United States. So hopefully that answers that question. Thanks, Jess.
All right. And kind of to follow up on that, someone was asking if they are going to be outside the US, what do they need to do with Cranwell International Center or the university to facilitate their reentry to the US for the spring 2021 semester?
Well, so what will happen if and when your record in SEVIS is terminated within that 21-day period following August 28th, you will get an email from Cranwell International Center informing you that we've had to take that action. And in that email, it will contain information about what you need to do when you're ready to come back to the United States. We'll talk later. I assume there'll be lots of questions about, how you get to the United States, because that may very well be why many of you are seeking answers to these questions about what happens if you're outside because you're not able to get back. But we'll help explain what you need to do. There may be different issues for undergraduate students versus graduate students. But again, your international student advisor will work with you and tell you exactly what needs to happen to get you back to campus at the next available opportunity.
Great. All right. So the next question is regarding the spring 2020 semester. So this past semester, international students who remained physically present in the US were allowed to enroll in 100% online, even though that's not normally what's allowed. So will international students still be able to do that for the fall 2020 semester with this new change?
With this new change, the answer is no, unfortunately not. That is one of the major changes outlined in the July 6 modifications. So international students in F1 non-immigrant visa status who are in the United States and enrolled at Virginia Tech for fall 2020 will not be allowed to be enrolled 100% online. If you are enrolled 100% online, you're going to have to update your enrollment to include at least one in-person or hybrid course, or you'll be required to leave the United States. If you are enrolled 100% online as of August 28th, we will be required, based on this current guidance, to terminate your record in SEVIS for failure to maintain status. So that's very important to note. Very good question. One of the biggest things coming out of these modifications, is that you cannot be enrolled 100% online like you're allowed to do in the spring.
All right, great. So the next question is a follow-up to that one, and also probably one of our most asked questions. So if international students are going to be present and not allowed to be 100% online for fall 2020, what will be the enrollment requirements for us?
So if you're going to be in the United States for fall 2020, first and foremost, you have to be enrolled as an international student full-time. That's always been the case. It remains the case. For undergraduate students, that means 12 credit hours. For graduate students, that means 9 credit hours or 12 credit hours if you have an assistantship. So that's always been the case. So that's number one. So what is your enrollment requirement for fall? Number one, be full-time. And number two, and this is the only other one, number two, you must be enrolled in at least one hybrid or in-person course, at least one. All other courses that you're taking can be online. And I would just note that this is actually normally not allowed under federal regulations. In fact, the exact opposite, the inverse is usually true. Students are usually allowed to only be enrolled in one online course during a semester, and the rest must, generally speaking, be in person. It's kind of flipped now. Now you are allowed to be enrolled mostly in online as long as you have at least one in-person course. So again, just to sum up, because I know this is really an important point, you have to be full-time enrolled for fall, and you have to have at least one course that's hybrid or online. And if you meet those criteria, you're set.
Great. Okay, so we have another follow-up question, lots of questions about enrollment. This one asks, I'm a graduate student who has completed all my required coursework and I'm engaged in research. Do my research credits count as in-person or a hybrid course that meet the requirements for enrollment for fall 2020?
The short answer to that question is yes. Research thesis or dissertation credits are considered in-person courses. They're never coded as online or virtual, so they satisfy the requirement for enrollment in at least one in-person or hybrid course. It's important to note that, while the research credits do satisfy that requirement, graduate students still must comply with the federal regulations that I just mentioned about full-time enrollment. So for graduate students who completed all of your required coursework and are engaged in research only, you still have to be enrolled in at least 9 credits if you're not on an assistantship and 12 credits if you're on an assistantship.
Great, thank you. Okay, so the next question is in regards to the 8 days that are after Thanksgiving break, where we will be going online as planned. It's not everyone knows that that's what's going to happen. So students are asking, does this mean that they have to leave after Thanksgiving break, leave the US?
So there are provisions in the July 6 modifications that speak to changes in the institution's operational stance that may trigger students having to leave the United States if they're going fully online. The fall 2020 plan for Virginia Tech will not invoke that provision of the SEVP modifications. Students will be able to remain in the United States. Those 8 days are part of our operational plan. They are not a change or a modification. So that is not something international students will need to worry about. They will not have to leave the country as a result of the 8 days that are in our instructional plan already.
Okay, so kind of to follow up on that then, another common question is, what happens if we do unexpectedly go online at any point before that during the semester? What will happen?
So I'm sure this is probably the question that's most pressing on people's mind because it is a big part of the modifications. The modifications, of course, were released 1 week ago only. We are still reviewing them, but what I can say is that regarding this specific issue, we are engaged at the highest levels of the university in ongoing and urgent discussions about this. And ultimately, we're exploring a wide range of actions and options that will enable us to comply fully with this aspect of the modifications, while also leveraging all university resources to ensure that international students are able to continue their academic programs and remain in the United States. That is our objective and our goal, and we're exploring all options as I speak. What I can say more generally is that our plan is to work individually and collectively with all of our international students to provide information and guidance that supports each of your needs. And so we're going to parse every word in the modifications related to this issue, and we're going to pursue every option to mitigate the negative impact of this on our international students. So we will be providing more updates on this as we move forward. You know, I was reading what the President Sand said recently, and I feel like I should quote it right now because I think it sums up regarding this issue, which I know is creating a lot of anxiety, and we're not able to provide every detail right now. But he said, and I'm quoting, "We're committed to our international students and their important role in Virginia Tech's unique educational experience and growth as a global land-grant university." And what I just want you to know related to this issue is those are not just words. I can assure you there is strong action being taken at the highest levels of the university to demonstrate that commitment. So you will hear more about this issue and more specifics, but know that we are working very hard and we will do everything we can to ensure you're able to continue your programs and remain in the United States.
Thanks, David. I know that's one that's been worrying a lot of our students, so that'll be important for them to keep updated with. So next question is for the students that will be here in the fall, taking courses, enrolling full-time, what else do they need to do to comply with the recent modification?
So as we already mentioned, you need to be enrolled full-time and have at least one course that's in-person or hybrid. So in order to document that you're in compliance with those two requirements, the broadcast message requires the university to issue a new Form I-20 to all international students in F1 non-immigrant status who are now or will be physically present in the US and enrolled at Virginia Tech for fall. That is potentially up to 4,000 new Forms I-20. So that is a tall order. But Cranwell International Center and the university is already prepared to make that happen. So to facilitate that process, Cranwell International Center has developed an online e-form through our International Hokies system, which is our immigration services portal online. And you have to go to this e-form to confirm your plans for fall 2020 and to attest to compliance with the modifications contained in the message, the broadcast message. So later today, Cranwell will be sending out information via email to all international students regarding the e-form and how to complete it and what you need to do. This will be sent to your Virginia Tech email, so be sure you're checking that regularly. That's where all official university communications go. After you've completed the e-form, which by the way should probably take you less than 5 minutes, I would imagine. But after you complete it and submit it, an international student advisor in Cranwell International Center will review it. And if applicable, they will issue you a new form I-20. I do think it's important to let you know what the difference is in the I-20. So I'm going to take just a minute to read it. Basically, we have to include a remark on the form I-20, and the remark will say this: issuance of this form I-20 certifies that for the fall 2020 semester, Virginia Tech will not be operating entirely online. This student will not be taking an entirely online course load, and this student will be taking the minimum number of online classes required to make normal progress in their degree program. As we've mentioned, that means you're taking at least one in-person or hybrid course. So the updated Form I-20 will be issued, signed, and sent to you electronically. There's no paper. You don't have to come pick it up. It'll all be done electronically. So it's a relatively simple process and should, again, be done. The email should get to you hopefully sometime today, and you can start doing that form.
Great. All right. So some people have been asking, what happens if something changes after I've already submitted the e-form, if my plans change or just something about that changes?
Good question. So we realize that actually doing this form now is a little bit premature because many students might not even be fully registered at this point. However, the form requires you to indicate where you're going to be, where you think you will be physically present for the start of fall. And it also requires you to indicate that you are or plan to enroll in at least one in-person or hybrid course. So you're going to do your best right now to fill it out. But to Jessica's question, if 3 weeks from now something changes, you would simply need to submit another form with the updated information, and we will make whatever adjustments we need to make at that time. It's also important to note that for this initial issuance of all these forms, we are going to be relying on the information you put in this e-form. We realize that, again, some people aren't registered yet, and we also realize that you have until August 28th to drop or add courses. So just be aware that after August 28th, international student advisors in Cranwell International Center will be checking the information now that drop add will have been over at that point to make sure everything still renders you to be in compliance with these modifications. If we find something that does not, we will reach out to you. So hopefully that answers that question.
All right, thank you. So one student asked, I read somewhere that the FAQ document that SCVP put out is not consistent with the broadcast message. I also read that SCVP would be publishing a temporary final rule in the Federal Register. What does all that mean?
Very good question, a little technical, but so the federal government issued this broadcast message, and it is controlling and has authority right now. To the questioner's question, there is also another document that Homeland Security put out. It's an FAQ document. And in that document, there is at least one section, I think it's page 2, question 3, something like that, where it contradicts something in the broadcast message. What you need to know now, don't worry about all the details, is at the end of the day, the broadcast message is controlling. So whatever it says there is what we have to rely on. So you're right. If you did a careful reading, there is a contradiction, but you really need to focus on the broadcast message. In addition, yes, the government did indicate that they would be writing what's called a rule, a temporary final rule through the rulemaking process, which we have in this country. And they are planning to publish it. That has not happened yet. If they do publish a temporary final rule in the Federal Register, that will then become controlling. So we will be following that very closely, because if what they write in that final rule is different from what's in the broadcast message, we will, for better or worse, we will want to be very aware of that and let you know. But we will be following all this, and we will let you know. Everything we're telling you today is accurate and is correct based upon the broadcast message, but as things change, we'll be letting you know.
Okay, thank you. So another question that we saw a lot of was people mentioning Harvard and MIT. They have filed lawsuits So they want to know, will this force the government not to implement any of these modifications that they've set forth?
So yes, good question. So yes, I'm sure everyone's aware that Harvard and MIT were the first, it seems, to file a lawsuit regarding these modifications. They filed a complaint for injunctive relief, and they filed a temporary restraining order. And there actually was already a court hearing about that last week. Now there are actually other lawsuits that have been filed as well. The state of California, the regents of the University of California, the state of Washington, and I think Johns Hopkins University have filed suits as well. The outcome of these lawsuits, to the question, definitely could change things. But we will not know until we know. So we have to proceed based upon what's in the broadcast message as of right now. I will say that the Harvard and MIT case, there is another court hearing scheduled for 3 o'clock tomorrow. And so we will see what happens there. There is expectation that there could be some kind of ruling by Wednesday, July 15th, because that is a deadline by which schools that are going to be fully online must report that to the Department of Homeland Security. So we'll follow that very closely. But at the end of the day, I guess what I just want to make sure people know is that we are following this closely. The legal office and the government relations office at Virginia Tech are very much engaged in ongoing discussions about how we can advocate strongly for our international Hokies. So we're taking action on a lot of different fronts. Just one quick example, the university recently signed on to a letter that calls on the US Congress to urge the Department of Homeland Security to withdraw these modifications. And the letter also notes the need for the Congress to act with legislative action if the Homeland Security doesn't do that. Interestingly, nearly half of the members of Congress have called on the Department of Homeland Security to backtrack on this rule. So there's a lot of momentum in that regard. And so we're following that, and we're on top of it, and you'll be hearing more soon about some additional significant actions we're taking as a university. So stay tuned.
So next question is from a student who is currently outside of the US but plans to travel back. They want to know, what do they do if they're not able to enter the US in time to start the fall semester on August 24th? What is the latest date that they can return?
Well, first, let me acknowledge that there are a lot of challenges facing international students, new and continuing, who are currently outside of the United States and seeking to enter by the start of fall. Flights are limited. Visa services remain suspended. Although I do want to make a quick point about that. On July 11th, the State Department did send out a tweet. So it's very quietly announced. People might not have even noticed this. And in that tweet, they announced that some embassies and consulates will begin visa services starting this Wednesday. Now, it's going to be phased in, and the tweet did not say which countries. Again, it was very under the radar. It wasn't a big announcement, but if you follow the State Department, their Twitter handle is @travelgov. So we may see some action there, but for right now, visa services are closed. There could be lots of backlogs. Flights are limited, and there are a number of travel bans, which are still in place. So even if you get a visa, there's travel bans in effect for China, Iran, the European Shenzhen area, which is about more than a dozen countries, Ireland and the United Kingdom, and Brazil. So there's still a lot of barriers. But what we want you to know, I guess, is despite all of this, Cranwell International Center is issuing immigration documents for international students to facilitate their travel to the U.S. if they're able. And so we want to make sure you have everything you need from us so that if and when a window of opportunity opens up, you have everything that you need. Now, within that context, to answer the specific question, the latest day by which you're allowed to report to campus for fall 2020 is August 28th, which is the last day to drop ads. So if you're not able to be in the US and on campus by that date, you're going to have to work with an international student advisor and also your academic advisor in the department to determine the next steps. We would at that time be required to terminate your record in SEVIS, as I mentioned earlier. So you would need to work with your international student advisor to figure out next steps. One thing I will say for our new students coming in for undergraduate students, you can defer your admission to the spring. That's one thing you can do. And to do that, you would just go online, and there's a form from the undergraduate admissions office you would complete, or you can email them at admissions@bt.edu and work out when you're able to come. Graduate students can also defer their admission. There are different procedures and policies about that, which I won't get into right now, but you can just email grads@bt.edu. So the deferral of admission for a graduate student, I want to make clear, does not automatically defer your assistantship offer. So you would need to make sure to contact the program that you've been admitted to talk about all of this. It's a little more complicated for graduate students. For either way, though, whenever you're ready to come back to the United States, either you've deferred until spring or whatever, Cranwell International Center will reach out to you and work with you to get you what you need to get here for the spring or whenever you're ready to come.
Okay, and to kind of follow up on that question, the student is asking if I'm enrolled online in V2 courses abroad, but like you mentioned, embassies and consulates start opening back up later, and then they're finally able to get a visa, say September or October. Are they allowed to travel to the US and report to campus and continue the rest of the semester on campus?
Unfortunately, the answer is no. You will not be able to enter the U.S. mid-semester and just jump into everything here on campus in the United States. If you're a new student and you're not able to be here by August 28th, as I mentioned, you need to defer your admissions, and then we'll work with you. And if you're a continuing student, you'll need to work with us as well. You won't defer because you're already a student here, but you will work with us, and we'll figure out when you're going to be coming back. One of the reasons that that's not possible as well is because there are rules that the government has in terms of how soon you can enter the United States prior to the semester you're able to enter. And in most of these cases, you would have an I-20 for spring semester at that point because you would not have made it by August 28th for fall semester. So it's a little bit complicated, but the short answer again is unfortunately, no, you cannot come into the United States mid-semester and just continue courses here.
Okay, this student is asking, am I allowed to enroll and count an independent study course as my at least one in-person or hybrid course?
Okay, so independent study, yes, as long as the course is credit bearing, counts as progress towards your degree, and the delivery mode and the delivery mode designated for the independent study is in person or hybrid, then it should be fine. It shouldn't be a problem at all.
Okay. All right. So next question is undergraduate or graduate students who are still engaged in coursework. And they're wondering if they're allowed to live somewhere else in the US outside of the immediate commuting area of Virginia Tech and enroll in courses at BT to satisfy their requirements to maintain their status.
So if I'm understanding the question, you're saying, so it's an undergraduate or a graduate student who's doing coursework. So it's not a graduate student doing research or doing coursework. And they want to know, can they live outside of the immediate commuting distance to Virginia Tech and still satisfy the requirements for enrollment? So let's think about that for a minute. So the SEVP modifications make really clear that you can't be enrolled 100% online. So you have to be enrolled in at least one course that's in person or hybrid. So by definition, again, with some few exceptions for graduate students engaged in research, this requires you to engage in an in-person component of the course, which includes receiving instruction in a space located on campus during the scheduled class time. So when you think about all those things, I think it would be very difficult, if not impossible, for you to be on campus and fulfill the required in-person components of the course. So again, if you think about it, if you're living in Florida, the question would be, can I still be considered enrolled in an in-person or hybrid course? Again, in the current context, I would really urge against that. And here's one reason why. If the student exchange visitor program compared your home address in the U.S. against the university's address and saw that you were living really far outside of a reasonable commuting distance to the university, to pick Florida again, like I mentioned, it could raise legitimate questions, right, about how you're satisfying the requirement to not be enrolled 100% online. Again, I would really caution against that. And also, I would also want to remind you that all international students are required by law to update their address their U.S. address within 10 days of a change. And so if you've changed your address for whatever reason, you are required to report that. And you do that by going into Hokie Spa and updating your address there. That will push through to the Cranwell International Center, and that will be forwarded on to the Homeland Security Department through a batch interface. So hopefully that answers that question. If I had to say, the short answer is it's practically impossible for you to be able to satisfy the enrollment requirement for having at least one in-person or hybrid course and be living in some other state or location, not in proximity to the university.
Thank you. So a little bit to kind of follow up on that, a little bit more specific, similar question, specifically for graduate students, say they're enrolled in research, thesis, or dissertation credits at VT. Does that change anything about living elsewhere in the US outside of the normal commuting distance from tech?
Okay, so now we're getting to some hard questions. That's from an immigration standpoint. So research is different than courses in some sense, right? So the students aren't going to the scheduled classroom instructional component. And so it's a little bit different. But what I would say is I would still stand by the same answer, because again, if you're living in Florida, it might beg the question to Homeland Security, how are you maintaining the in-person or hybrid requirement? Even though the course is coded that way, how are you actually practically doing that? I think that's going to require a little more further conversation with an international student advisor. It may depend upon if there are legitimate academic reasons supported by your academic advisor for you to be in another place, like maybe they have a lab in another university, or the research you're doing relates to a company in that state, and you're getting some data sets from them. There could be reasons where that could make sense. Furthermore, it could be the case that you're able to return to Virginia Tech once or twice the semester, and perhaps that would be considered to establish the in-person hybrid component. But there is nothing clearly prescriptive about any of this. We're getting into very gray areas right now. And I would say in the current context, living far away from the university when you're supposed to be enrolled at least in one in-person or hybrid course could potentially create problems. So great questions. And we're happy to meet one-on-one and talk to you about it if, in fact, there's a reason you might need to consider doing that.
Thank you. So the student asks, if I'm outside of the US and enrolled in courses at VT, will I be required to keep holding the university or otherwise any kind of health insurance, as is generally required by international students while they're here on campus?
So as you mentioned, Jessica, yeah, typically if you're an international student in F1 status on campus here at Virginia Tech and enrolled in at least 3 credits, you're required to purchase the university's health insurance plan through Aetna, or you have to show you have comparable coverage. However, if you're outside of the United States, you will not be required to have that health insurance requirement, even if you are enrolled while you're outside the United States, right? So maybe you're enrolled online full-time from wherever you are around the world. You will not be required to maintain the health insurance requirement. You should still go ahead and fill out a waiver form, though, just to be sure it doesn't appear on a bill or anything like that. So if you go to the Student Medical Insurance Office's website, they have the waiver form on their website. And it's been updated to include, for example, at the very top, that one of the reasons you're seeking to waive it is you're outside of the United States. And so they will work with you to make sure it's waived in that scenario. I think that waiver site went live on July 1st. So you should be able to access it even now to waive out of the insurance if you are going to be outside of the United States.
All right, great. So another kind of piggybacking off of that, if I am inside of the US and I have insurance coverage through the university or otherwise, will the plan cover COVID-related testing and other costs?
I did reach out to the Student Medical Insurance Office recently to talk about this, and So the short answer is yes. The Aetna health insurance plan that the university provides will cover COVID-related medical costs, just like any other illness, pursuant to the all the other parameters of the plan, whatever the deductibles or copays or all that are. But COVID would be treated just like any other illness. So you can read more about that at the Student Medical Insurance website. But yes, for students in the United States who are required to have health insurance, who do choose the university's plan, it will cover that. Now, if you waive out of the university's plan and choose your own plan, we can't verify whether or not that plan would cover COVID-related issues or not. You'll have to be really careful about that if you're waiving out and choosing your own plan.
All right, thank you. Another question came in about our e-form, and they want to know, is there a deadline by which we need to submit the e-form?
So the broadcast message indicates that universities must reissue all of these Form I-20s by August 4th. So what is that? Just 2 or 3 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now? So that's pretty quick turnaround. So in order to do that, we just, as I mentioned earlier, we have this e-form that hopefully will be sent out today. And so we're going to ask that all international students try to complete that by no later than this Friday, July 17th. Just to give us plenty of time to review the thousands that we will receive and to issue those new I-20s electronically. Again, it's a very simple form. It shouldn't take you very long at all to complete it. We know some information is kind of preliminary. Some information might change between now and August. And as we mentioned, you can submit it again if something changes. But for now, we're asking you to try to complete it by this Friday. Now, that does not mean that on Monday we'll have 4,000 I-20s ready. We're going to queue these up and potentially prioritize them based upon a variety of metrics. But you will definitely get a Form I-20 that's updated if you need one by the August 4th deadline, barring any court cases or anything else that might give us more time to do that. So good question. I think we'll mention in the email about that as well, but we're going to shoot for this Friday to get all of those submitted to us.
Thanks. So it looks like we've made it through most of our questions that were pretty general. I'm sure people will still have follow-ups and, kind of more specific to their individual cases. So I just wanted to thank you, David, for answering these questions, and to everyone that submitted questions and joined us today. We really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to David to conclude our time together today and let him make a few brief final remarks.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for all those questions. I really appreciate it. As we end our time together, I just want you to know that just because the town hall is ending doesn't mean that our work to support you is ending, nor does it mean that you're unable to ask us other questions. We are ready to help you. You can email us, call us, set up a Zoom meeting, and we will continue to help and answer your questions. And the university as a whole will continue to vigorously advocate for you and to tirelessly work to support you. As I mentioned before, we're exploring a wide range of actions to sustain and to even strengthen our support for you. So please stay tuned to our social media channels and other areas where we'll be posting updates. I guess before I end, I want to say one other thing to our international students again, because I know there's a lot of anxiety that you're dealing with, but you are crucial to the mission of Virginia Tech, to our ongoing advancement as a global land-grant university, and really to the vitality and creativity of our entire nation in the world. I've said before, a lot of you have heard me, your future prime ministers and poets, future scientists and senators, future journalists and jurists, and future entrepreneurs and educators. And so those of us here at the university count it was one of our highest privileges to be able to engage with each of you and to learn from you every day here in Blacksburg, where we get to have 4,000 international students from over 123 countries here in Blacksburg. It's an awesome privilege. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We're here to help you. And I really appreciate Jessica's help with the town hall, all the questions you submitted, and everyone who made this happen. And please stay in touch. Go Hokies. Thank you.